So you make your living as an arranger, as a sideman, and as a producer. Is that right?
Yes, it started off as a sideman and went to arranger, sideman, and then producer, basically.
It's kind of a triple threat. So you're in the studio. If the bass player gives you a hard time, you can just say, "Give me that," and you can play the bass part of it. So
could do that.
Well, why don't we talk about the beginning of it? Then you were a musician growing up. You played in bands.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about your early experiences and educational experiences?
Yeah. I started playing piano when I was 5, and I had a fabulous teacher. I learned playing classical piano, and then got into bands when I was around 15. Played a lot of rock and roll and R&B and acid rock, when all that stuff kind of happened, and then got into jazz, and I had quit playing classical music, and then got back into music by taking jazz lessons and started taking classical lessons really seriously once I decided that music was going to be my life. Because are there a lot of musicians here? Hands up on musicians? A lot. So you got to have chops, right? You got to have really solid chops. You don't have to play fast. You just have to have solid chops so that you can play what you want to play. And so, for me, going back to classical gave me that, because I was playing in bands and I was like, well, yeah, I can play this, but I can't really execute that 100%. You know what I mean? I can execute at 90. And when you've got really good chops, you can execute it at 100%. So that was really important getting back, and I, credit my piano teacher, who was just an excellent teacher, to show that. Moving from there, I ended up moving down to Los Angeles to make the move. I'm from Vancouver, British Columbia. My fiance also is from there. And she's the pretty thing right there. No. So I moved to Los Angeles to get it going in music, and would play on anything I could. I'd play on demos. I'd play on stuff for nothing in trade for them playing on something of mine. I'd play on demos for $25 a song. I did arrangements for $50. Found out what an arranger kind of does, more so than I would have known in Vancouver. And I never even knew what a producer did until I moved there. And then, through being there and being at the right place at the right time, eventually you get a break here and there. I got a job playing piano for Sonny and Cher. You probably are way too young to know who they are, but I went on the road with them, and then their musical director quit, so I became the musical director. So then I got a little more clout there, and and just things kind of slowly, you get 3 steps up and 2 back, and you've gone up a floor, right? And then I started doing sessions, and that turns into you play in a hit record. Once you play in a hit record, everybody wants you, and then because everybody wants you, you get the opportunity to play on all these other records that were probably already going to be a hit record anyway. So you're playing on that one too. But that's how you get. It's kind of a snowball going down a hill, Well,
so what was the first hit record?
The first hit record I ever played on was Quincy Jones' album. Was a song called "Just Once," which you're all too young to know that too. You're probably not born yet, because that was like 1980. It's probably, you were all born about 1985 or 6 or something, right? Yikes.
Well, how did you get the gig playing for Quincy?
Oh, well, yeah, sorry. I started writing also in this before then, and I got a publishing deal, and I was writing, and there was some heavy hitter writers in ATV, the publishing company I was signed to. Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil, they go back to the early 60s. Barry Mann wrote "You Lost That Love and Feeling."
Really?
Yeah, brilliant song. And they've written tons of huge hit songs together. And I used to play on their demos up at ATV. And, and then I started writing with Barry. And I played on that Just Once on the demo. Mm-hmm. And so they had all these keyboard players play on it. Quincy didn't get the feel that he wanted, which he wanted the demo, I guess. And so as a last resort, they called me in, and I was the right guy because I'd played in the demo, and so it all worked out. And so And then we just went from there. So I got to playing that. And then everybody, you know, if somebody's looking for a good ballad piano player, then they'll look at Quincy Jones's album and say, oh, yeah, well, we like that song. Oh, that's Robbie Buchanan. Well, let's get that guy. And that's how you get your gigs, right? If you're going to be a session player. That's how you do it.
Well, did you know what a big break that was when you were going to having it?
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah, I remember I was in a band and we were signed to Warner Brothers, and we were all aspiring studio musicians. We all wanted to be studio musicians, and nobody was yet. We were all just right before that, right? And we were at our manager's house for dinner, and he had invited the A&R guy from Warner Brothers over. They had just signed us, and Quincy was on Warner Brothers, and he says, hey, Rob, we thought you might hear this. I got the new Dude album. Right? That's what the album was called, The Dude. And I was like, oh, wow, yeah, cool, yeah. So we're all there, you know, and they put it on. And we were all freaks about Quincy Jones because he was so cool with R&B, right? And they put that song, and I was just like, wow, I sound so special, you know. But, you know, I'd never been on a hit record before, so.
That's amazing. We all know that Quincy Jones produced Thriller, which is probably the biggest selling record of all time. Quincy Jones is still a major figure in the music industry.
Oh, yeah.